Hello and welcome. My name is Blake and I'm the Member Care Coordinator at Community Clubs Victoria. This short video is designed to educate and inform key decision makers in clubs about the process of temporary builds, what you as a venue operator can do when tragedy strikes or when you have unused space on your land that can be put to better use. Joining me today is Teena Johnson, manager at Morwell Bowling Club, who will share her experience firsthand. And we'll also hear later from James Bate and Frank Pryor from Insite Architects, who will provide some insights from a design and compliance perspective. For some context, in August 2024, the Morwell Bowling Club was devastated by a fire caused by an electrical fault. The blaze required more than 60 firefighters to bring it under control, and tragically, around 95% of the building was lost. Now, Teena, you've been with the club for over 20 years, and I
Yep.
can imagine this experience would have been incredibly overwhelming to anyone in your position. Are you happy to share what the last few months have been like for you and the team following the fire?
So it took us 4 months to reopen, which for us felt like a lifetime. For everyone else, thought it was quite amazing. It was just pretty well the the morning of the fire, the morning after the fire was the main aim was to get open. It didn't matter what we did, we had to open. We've got members. We've got at this stage we had 75 staff member that we had to keep engaged. And so, pretty well, with the help of the insurance company, they've done this before. We've never done this before. So, my words were, what do we do? How do we get open? How do we start trading again? And they just said, temporary, go a temporary building. So, a couple of options were to try and put a temporary building onto the site we had, which we had a pretty ample car park. But that wasn't really going to work. We get a lot of winds through that car park area. So then another option was on the other side of our club was we had two bowling greens. So the option was to build on one of our bowling greens. So at first it was like I didn't think the bowlers would be very enthusiastic about that idea, but they jumped on it. They were like, yep, do whatever you've got to do to get open and we're here to help and support you. So that was it. So we put a temporary structure onto a bowling green. You don't actually realize how big a bowling green is until you can put we put a bistro, a full commercial kitchen, gaming room, reception, a bar area, toilets, cool rooms, the whole lot that fits around and on a bowling green. So
And especially during such circumstances like these, staff well-being and stability can be one of the most difficult challenges during a time like this.
yeah.
So, what steps did you take to support them both emotionally, operationally, as you navigated those
Yeah.
challenges in the early months of the fire?
It was kind of ironic because we actually were having a staff meeting the morning that the club actually burnt down because they were doing some works in the street, so we didn't have power. So it was the ideal time to call a staff meeting. Anyone who works in this industry know how hard it is to get all the staff together in one time with people working different shifts. So pretty well, people were turning up for their staff meeting who hadn't looked at social media and stuff at like 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, and instead of a staff meeting, we were discussing what we're going to do. The day after the fire, we called a full staff meeting with all staff, board members, and we had the insurance company here as well. So the aim for that was just to get the staff informed, to take away their fears that they weren't going to have a job. Our insurance cover that we had allowed us to have our 100% of our staff wages paid for 3 months. So that's definitely something you need to look into is what your wages cover in your insurance is. So that took the pressure off us for 3 months of having to worry about engaging our staff. And then once we were getting close to the temporary building, being so we pretty well engaged it and started rostering staff to come on, keeping them informed while you're going as well, keeping emails going to them. We used Tanda, so it was a fantastic way of communicating with all the staff because they're all linked in through it. Like each, at least probably twice a week, just in telling them what's happening, what we're up to. Social media also. sending photos to the staff, just letting them know what's happening, what's going on, and reinforcing the fact that they will have a job. And that just like, because that's the biggest fear. They've got bills to pay. They've got families to support, and not knowing is the biggest fear of not knowing what's going to happen. So
Yeah, and sometimes it's those small moments of support that really make all the difference,
oh
especially
yeah.
in scenarios like this. Was there anything that sort of particularly stood out for you in terms of your staffing?
The support was amazing. Like, I would get emails, text messages, phone calls, anything we can do, can we come down? I mean, we couldn't be on site for a while because we were under a emergency order until like the demo and everything was completed, and once majority of the temporary building was up. As soon as that was up, we had rostered, like, staff were rostered virtually here to help with painting, to do the things that just to get us open quicker, and to support the builders that were coming, like, that were doing what they needed to do, and we could do the mediocre works and getting things done and just getting open. That, like, obviously that we wanted to get open for the staff, but we also needed to bring the members back.
Yeah.
We needed to engage those members.
And with clubs, like clubs are really the heart of the communities here.
Oh
And it's
yeah.
been well documented how much the Morwell Bowling Club means to the community. How did you go about managing member expectations while also balancing the reality of the situation as well?
Yeah, so the members were another one of our, after the staff, the members are our main priority, and that's the same thing. Very similar to the staffing is like email, like we have a newsletter, so emailing out to the members. Social media is always a good one as well, like just continual updates on social media. Phone calls for a lot of our older members that don't use social media, like reaching out to them directly, and then just telling them what's going on, what's happening. Also engaging members to also be in contact with other members. So every club has like your core members that are here all the time, and then it's like getting them involved to also reach out to others. And all, I mean, we've got 2,500 members. It's like social media and emails is usually the easiest way to get out there and contact them. But it's just, and also there was always 100 rumors going around on what happened, how did it happen, what's this, what's that. Informing the members so then they know the truth. They know what's happening. They know what stage we're at, and they know that when we're going to be able to reopen, and at what form that we're going to reopen at what we will have. Like they're all like, there was a lot of rumors like, oh, you're not going to have a bistro, you're not going to have this, but just let them know. They just want to know. They just want to be informed. A lot of them, they love the club that they go to, so they want to be a part of it. And their support was unbelievable. Like, they just, can we do anything? Can we come down? I would have had 300 people here if I could have, but we just couldn't have them on site. So, and they all just wanted the help, and they just wanted us to get reopened.
Mm. And reflecting back on everything that you and the team have been through, what has come out of this experience for you? And are there any sort of key takeaways that you can relay back to other clubs that are in the industry?
I think the key one is the support. I think it's, you don't realize, you work in the industry and you go along day to day until something like this happens, that is so devastating to yourself and to your staff members and to your members. You don't realize how much a club means to people. Like, you got to sometimes stand back and look and think to yourself, the impact that something like a club like this can have when people can't attend is, it's amazing. It's absolutely outstanding. And the community support, even like just the community at large, was, you can't even describe the support that was there. It was just amazing. And also, like, things like, I mean, for an example, we have like a coffee club. So we've got like a group of ladies that get together once a month and come in, like, have morning tea. And we rang them and said, would you like to come in the day before? We've got a staff get together to catch up before we open on Christmas Eve. Our aim was to be open by the end of the year, and we opened Christmas Eve. And so I invited them down early, and they walked through the door, and one of the ladies started crying, and I'm like, oh my God, is it not that bad? And she goes, oh my God, it's just so nice to be home.
Mm.
And that was it. I was gone. That just hit me so hard. And they're just like, oh my God, it's just so nice to walk and to go home. It's different. It's 4 different walls. It's a whole different building, but it's the same feel. It's the same atmosphere. It's the same staff. And that's what they said. Their opening words. It's just so nice to be home. And that just sums up what a community club is. For some people, it is their home. That's where they come to communicate, to see people, to just to say hi, just to get out of their house and just be able to do what they need to do. And that's why we're here. That's what we're all about.
100%. And since starting here at Community Clubs Victoria, it's amazing to hear about all the stories and what clubs mean for their members. It's their home away from home. It's that little piece of social connection that keeps everything intact.
Yeah.
So beautifully said, Teena. Couldn't have asked for anything more. Thank you for sharing your story and your commitment to your club, and just the resilience that you guys have shown is just a testament of what a community club is all about at the end of the day. So thank you, Teena. Um, Now I'd like to hand over to James Bate and Frank Pryor from Insite Architects. Insite Architects have over 40 years of experience in the hospitality sector. So James, I'll start off with yourself first. So if you're in the shoes of a venue operator and suddenly found that your venue was unusable, what would be your first steps in creating a temporary venue to keep your operations running and to keep the connection with your patronage?
Well, Frank, it was interesting. I had friends who on social media said, "Oh, you're the architect of the Morwell Bowling Club, aren't you? It's burnt down." And I had a friend who was actually driving down the highway and saw the flames licking up because the club is proximate. So the board immediately got in touch and said, "Look, we've been speaking to the insurance company. We need to be up and running." And it was a whole new world for us because there are a different set of regulations that apply for temporary buildings, given this was the solution. So we looked at, they had 2 companies who were providing proposals for how they might go about a temporary building. As Teena said, they looked at the car park, but the club had a covered bowls green. Interestingly enough, the covered bowls screen survived the impacts of the fire, and we've just been working on the rebuild, and also on another club that has a bowls green adjacent to a large building. We've noted that the fabric roofs actually are quite non-flammable and were resistant to the ember attack. But that said, with the club and its importance to the community, the local council, the City of Latrobe, were amazing in terms of fast-tracking planning approvals, and also we worked directly with their building surveyors. There's a different set of regulations that apply to a temporary building to conventional building approvals, that which again was a learning curve for us. But the people providing the temporary building were across that. But nonetheless, we had to make an assessment of what could be reused in building the temporary kitchens, working on the gaming lounge with the gaming provider. There's a whole lot of fast-track design issues that happened, and then coordinating with the board and Teena, and really focused on the fact that Teena had those 3 months of accommodation for the insurance company on paying staff, to then having a situation where the club wasn't being financially cruel by an ongoing process. But we had a lot of ins and outs with the surveyors and authorities. So it was key that we had a long relationship with the club. We had access to past drawings, we were able to quickly motivate. We also had consultants who knew the site well. And then one of the key things we now realise that is if any club is not necessarily involved with a catastrophe as happened at Morwell, that if they're losing part of a building during a major renovation, it is possible to have a temporary building that could be built to accommodate lounge, gaming, bistro, other facilities that can be built on an open space. With the temporary buildings, believe there's a 2-year window that can be extended. So a temporary building can't be forever, but it's certainly going to accommodate the Morwell Club, and is now it's creating a home away from home for its members, and they'll move into an improved building when the rebuild occurs.
The temporary build is fascinating because I think it's an option that not many clubs would know about, that they do have that flexibility to create a new atmosphere while there is work that is being done. But especially when dealing with a scenario like the Morwell Bowling Club, insurance plays a huge role in how a club can recover and rebuild. So with an insurance claim, the insurer might pay out the sum insured, plus an additional amount to cover the extra costs required to meet the new building standards or codes that have changed since the original structure was designed. James, can you explain what some of these updated standards or requirements might be?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Conventionally designing a building, you have a brief from a client and then work with codes and their budget. In the case of working with the insurance company, we need to be clear that the sum insured is for the building that is, in this case, demised, not for the building that you want to build. The insurance can only pragmatically cover what was there previously, and including its contents, or what insurance cover was taken out by the club or the client. So we've been working with the insurers, their QSs, and it's been a very long process to be able to convince them that what the condition of the building was, because they're of course seeking to reduce the amount they would seek to pay out. We're seeking to get a fair deal for the club. So the insurance company has something called betterment, where you have a base level of what they expect it to be. You seek to improve, and they say, well, look, that's betterment. But if betterment is the fact that if the building was built 20 years ago and we're seeking to re-establish that at the same size, same footprint today, access codes, requirement for WorkSafe, fire safety, all of those things are now much more stringent than they were in the past. And so in the case of Morwell, we're now having approval for roof plant, which now needs to be screened from a planning point of view. 20 years ago, councils didn't care if you could see an air conditioner on a roof. We've got increased sizes of access toilets, increased walkways for disabled people, etc., and improved fire rating materials and warning systems and the like. And that's all allowed us to be able to justify an increase in the amount that the insurer would provide. So we've had a number of meetings with their quantity surveyors, and also it's helped that with a long relationship, we've got all the documents going and photographs going back 20 years to actually have proof of the pudding of how the building was finished and fitted out.
Beautiful. Thank you, James. I think that's a good way to pass over to now Frank, who was involved firsthand in this project. So what has your experience been like navigating building codes, regulations, and when undertaking significant rebuilds or maybe major refurbishments like this one?
Yeah, thanks, Blake. So for a project of any kind of significant size, obviously there's going to be a bit of a minefield of compliance to work through. In the case of Morwell, unsurprisingly, the challenges revolved around the cause of the rebuild in the first instance. So that's fire compliance. And in that respect, regulation just continues to get more and more stringent. So we had some things to work through with the building surveyor, who actually wasn't the building surveyor on some of the previous projects, and that in itself can be a bit of an issue, or can result in determinations that are different to what has been determined in the past with respect to building classifications. And the most important part of that, I suppose, is the bowls canopies and how they were classified. In our case, we were able to get a determination in the end that they were a Class 10 non-habitable structure. And the reason that matters is that they then don't count towards the overall fire compartment sizes. So if a bowls canopy and a whole bowls green do count towards those sizes, then that just straight away blows you out of the water with your fire compartments, and you're putting firewalls up everywhere. So that was a really important determination to get, and it meant that we were able to go with one firewall separating the sort of west and east portions of the site, rather than running a firewall along the north wall that opens up onto the bowls greens. So want to keep that fully glazed and with that connection, that visual connection between the bowls greens and the club.
Nah, beautiful. And if a club was looking at ways to mitigate the risk of a potential fire, are there any sort of design ideas or strategies that you would suggest to consider during a build or a refurbishment?
Yeah, so like I just mentioned, the firewall separation is a big one, and even though, of course, you don't want to have more than is reasonable, in the case of the fire at Morwell, there was an external wall, or a former external wall, that separated the west and east portions of the site. And that wasn't actually a firewall, but it was a double brick wall, which did have the effect of protecting to a large extent the function centre, which was only a recent development from a few years previous. There was smoke damage that got through. I'd say that smoke damage, if the fire were to happen post this rebuild, would be prevented because that wall was being replaced with a full firewall. So fire separation just can help clubs avoid the worst case scenario. Some other things to consider are the combustibility of the building materials you use. Of course, there are standards around these, but you can always opt to go a level above with the level of non-combustibility of materials that you use. Early warning fire detection systems to enable people to escape the building more promptly, because at the end of the day, the most important thing is the safety of patrons. Properly maintained premises, keeping up to date with all of your regular maintenance. And then things like hydrants and fire hose reels, making sure they're up to scratch, functional. Again, they've had all their safety checks. And then ensuring that there's adequate pressure in the firefighting equipment. It's pretty common now for Fire Rescue Victoria to ask for fire tanks to be provided on site, to just make sure that they have an adequate level of pressure and coverage for the amount of time they require to put out a fire when it does occur.
Perfect. And even just with, you mentioned as well that some of the work that was been done on Morwell was pretty recent. Just thinking to a lot of the venues that haven't had much work done to their building sites in a number of years, that probably need to be taking care of those and making sure that they're up to scratch and up to code. So thank you, James and Frank, for sharing your insights today. I'd also just like to mention that if you are a club that's watching this short video and you are thinking about the next stages for your venue, I encourage you to get in touch with the team at Insite Architects. They offer a venue assessment to help you understand where your venue currently stands and how they can support your vision into the future. And as always, the team at CCV, we're here to help you out whenever possible. So by all means, feel free to reach out. So thank you for joining today's short video, and we hope to hear from you soon.